I would like to ask you if you could, like, if there's any way that I can get out in a bond and go present myself to Sarasota County on Monday. The only thing when I'm asking this is that I have two kids at home, right? So the only help I have is my mom, and I already spoke with her, and she can get to the States into the latest on Friday or Saturday the next weeks. So right now, the one that has my kids is my best friend. But one of my kids, just 1 year old, and my husband died. Like today, it's been a year that my husband just passed away. And my kids are basically with my best friend, and my daughter, she's sick. I took her to the hospital on Thursday. I could provide all this paperwork, and she got beginning of pneumonia. So supposedly tomorrow I had to take her to see her doctor back to see how she's doing, you know. So I'm not trying to run. I supposedly had a lawyer on that case that was taken care of. If you see the record, I don't even have a traffic ticket. My only case is that from 2019. You know, I'm not trying to not do my job. That is go present myself in Sarasota County. I didn't know about the warrant. As I say, I just about my kids. I don't even go out. Friday, I went to a concert. But if you know, it's like tomorrow I had to pay the rent. I don't have nobody out there that I have access to my a bank account that I can go do that. And if I don't do that, like I could probably be locked out of the place that I just got a new apartment, you know? So I know, I understand that is a lot to ask, but it would be like I'd be appreciated if you can let me out in a bond. I don't know how much it will be, but I call my mom and see if they can put some money from the Dominican Republic so I can bail out and just go myself to Sarasota. I promise I write my address, all my contact that you can go send somebody to check in. If I'm in that place, I can give you the leasing office number, everything, and I will go Monday morning to Sarasota. I just like I know it will take time probably to get transferred to it, and my only concern are my kids right now, you know. So that's the only way. That's why I'm asking right now, if I could be like put out in a bond, like any type of way.
You know, first of all, I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
And I hear you. I understand the concern. But, you know, I can't do that because basically I've got a warrant from another judge who wears the same robe as I do from somewhere else. And I can't override that judge's warrant. So, you know, I understand certainly, but I'm not in a position to be able to do that.
Okay,
Good luck,
thank
ma'am.
you.
All right. Do we have them on? Okay.
Hello, ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here.
Does that mic wrap around to the other side, maybe?
The other side of what?
Like, will the mic go around the back side? That works. All right. Good morning, Madam Interpreter. Can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Madam Clerk, please place the interpreter under oath.
Do you swear to translate from Creole to English, English to Creole testimonies given?
I do.
All right. Our next case is Algalita Dormelis. She's before us on one count of aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, and I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent her. Madam Interpreter?
Oh, I'm sorry. I hear you very far away.
All right, let me try this again. Defendant is charged with one count of aggravated battery with a deadly weapon.
Et prochaine à cela, yo chargé li parce que li te fait attaque grave avec yon zam qui violent.
And I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent the defendant.
Nous pour aller désigner une défense publique qui vous capable de représenter défendant.
Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor, just that a reasonable bond be set.
State?
État,
States requesting no contact with the victim.
État ta remen pour victime pour li pa gen contact avec victime nan.
All right, the bond will be stayed at $5,000.
Caution a mette li pour $5,000.
Defendant shall not return to the scene of the alleged offense
Défendant pas supposé retourner dans scène côté li te supposé et attaquer victime nan.
and shall not have contact with the victims.
Li pas supposé contacter victime yo.
Defendant may return to the residence with law enforcement on a one-time basis to retrieve her belongings.
Défendant capable retourner dans résidence li une seule fois avec accompagne et police pour capable aller chercher bagay li.
And defendant shall not possess any weapons.
Et li pas supposé gen aucun zam.
All right, we're adjourned. All right, thank you, Madam Interpreter.
You're welcome. Thank you for using our services. You have a wonderful day.
All right, next case is Bruce Taylor. Counsel?
If we can reset it for tomorrow.
Okay. All right, Jeffrey Fuller. This is on the bottom. Mr. Fuller is before me on one count of theft. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
Bond is stayed at $500. Is there also a burglary case?
Yes, Your Honor, he's out on bond for attempted burglary and petty theft. 23 CF 3455. State would ask that that be revoked.
All right, the underlying bond, or the bond on that case is going to be revoked. I'll set a new bond of $2,000.
And there's 2 counts on the out on bond case.
The affidavit says petty theft.
Yes.
All right, I'll set a bond of $1,900 as to the attempted burglary, $100 as to the petty theft.
Sir, you know what?
That's $1,900 as to count 1 and $100 as to count 2.
You're looking at the wrong one.
No, that is your other
What?
charge.
We're adjourned.
That's your other charge, your attorney.
2,500. There's only one problem.
Next case is Timothy Lafferty.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, this is one count of trespassing. And there is a previous case of trespassing and possession of cocaine
Jesus, yes, I'm scared it's my first one.
under
I get a year to
23 MM 2388 and 2023 CF 3500. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Just that a reasonable bond be set.
Court will stay the bond on the new case at $250. On the 2023 MM 2388. Oh, and on the new case, the defendant shall not return to the scene of the alleged offense.
Yes.
On the 2023 MM 2388, I'm going to revoke the recognizance bond, set a bond of $500 as to that case. Defendant shall not return to the scene of that offense. As to the possession of cocaine,
Yes, Jesus.
2023 CF 3500, that bond is revoked. And the court will set a new bond of $1,500.
What is that? Why did you go?
You can talk to your attorney.
Next case is Andrew Rodriguez. All right, Mr. Rodriguez is here on a violation of probation. Appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
State?
Yes, Your Honor, the violation of probation came in at none. We would ask that it remain at none, based off the nature of the charges. And that he have no contact with the victim in the underlying case.
All right, the bond will be stayed at no bond, no contact with the victim, and it'll be to be set by the presiding judge, if there is a bond.
And he also has the VFOSC detainer.
I'm sorry?
He also has the violation of special concerns detainer.
That doesn't require any court action, though, does it?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, next case is Michael Rossi.
The state would like to offer an adjudication and credit time served for Mr. Rossi on both charges.
All right, defense counsel, would you like a minute?
Yes, Your Honor. You have a plea form?
For the record, I'm going to appoint the public defender.
It's going to be a judicial appeal, so it will be conviction. Are you okay with that?
Did we flip it today and do the misdemeanors first?
This sounds like.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
The order today and do the.
It's not like. It's right.
All right, Madam Clerk, please place the defendant under oath.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear affirm that testimony about to give should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
All right, Mr. Rossi, do you read and write the English language? You can put your hand down.
yes, I do.
Have you had sufficient time to review this decision with your counsel?
Yes, I have.
And you want to proceed with a plea of no contest as to the offenses here?
Yes.
All right, I'll accept the plea. What's the recommendation for sentencing?
It would be an adjudication and credit time served for both counts.
All right, defendant will be adjudicated, guilty based upon the no contest plea and be sentenced to time served. All right, we're adjourned on that case. Thank you. All right, next. What's that? Year. Next case is Michael Jacobs. Counsel?
We can waive his appearance.
All right. Would you like to be heard?
Just that a reasonable bond be set.
State?
State has no objection to that.
All right, state, or the bond will be stayed at $1,000. Next case is Angel Ortiz Garcia.
I'll waive it.
Is that the sign interpreter? Okay. All right, well, Mr. Interpreter, I guess we're not gonna need your services. Sorry to make you get all dressed up and come down here. All right, failure to appear, counsel, would you like to be heard?
Just that a reasonable bond be set.
State?
It came in at none. I don't have any information as to whether or not the judge who signed the warrant wanted it to stay at none. We'll leave it at the court's discretion. I do see it's possession of cocaine, so.
All right, I'm gonna stay the bond at none pending further adjudication by the presiding judge, given that he's already failed to appear. All right, next case is Jean Echevarria. All right, been charged with 1 count of battery, domestic violence, and 1 count of grand theft. Appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor, just that a reasonable bond be set.
All right, I'm gonna set bond at $500 as to count 1, $500 as to count 2. Defendant shall have no contact with the victim. And defendant can have a one-time return to the residence to obtain his personal belongings. All right, next case is Daniel Harp. 1 count of possession of methamphetamine, possession of cocaine, battery by strangulation, domestic violence, and battery domestic violence. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Just that a reasonable bond be set.
What is domestic violence and all that? Hands. I don't have no paperwork.
All right, as to the possession of I think, are we here on the possession of methamphetamine? Because I don't see the,
Your Honor, I just have a warrant for battery by strangulation and battery domestic violence.
okay. All right, court will set bond at $750 as to count 1, $250 as to count 2. No contact with the victim. I'll allow a one-time return to the residence with law enforcement to obtain his belongings, and the defendant shall maintain a separate residence from the victim. Sorry? No return to the, yeah, he can return one time with law enforcement with, in the company of law enforcement.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And Your Honor, what was the bond for count one?
$750. All right, Jeremiah Holly. Right, before me on one count of aggravated battery on a pregnant person. Appoint the public defender. Would you like to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor, just that a reasonable bond be set.
Set bond at $500. Defendant should have no contact with the victim. Maintain separate residences. Have one-time return with law enforcement to obtain his belongings. And defendant shall not possess any weapons. Next case is Daniel Milford. One count of aggravated battery on a pregnant person, one count of battery, domestic violence, and criminal mischief. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor, just that a reasonable bond be set on the aggravated battery and the battery count.
Also appoint the public defender. All right, bond will be set at $500 as to count one, $100 as to count two, and will be stayed at $500 as to count three. The defendant shall have no contact with the victim. Nope. No weapons, no drugs, maintain separate residences. All right, next case is Scott Albers. He's before us, one count of battery domestic violence. I'm sorry? All right, the defendant's before me on one count of domestic violence. I'll appoint the public defender. Would you like to be heard, counsel?
Just that a reasonable bond be set.
All right, I'm going to set bond in this case at $250. The defendant shall have no hostile contact with the victim. All right, Marcus Boudreau. All right, Mr. Boudreau is before me with one count of battery domestic violence. I'll appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Yes, we ask that a reasonable bond be set and no hostile contact.
He qualifies for pretrial, Your Honor.
Right, and do we have Ms. Dorcius? All right, and ma'am, can you state your full name, please?
Melissa Michelle Dorcius.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Melissa Michelle Dorcius.
Is there anything that you want the court to consider in terms of whether, what kind of conditions that I would place on the defendant in terms of his bond?
No, but I do want to return back to where I was living with him. And
I'm
return-
sorry, you can go ahead and take off your mask while you're in there.
I still have a few things at the residence where I was living at with him, and he also has my personal cellular device that I do not have.
Okay. So is it your residence or is it his residence?
His residence.
Okay. And do you want to have any contact with him?
No.
Okay. All right, the Thank you. The bond will be set at $500. The defendant shall have no contact with the victim. The Counsel for the state, what's the best way to establish the conditions so that the victim can get her belongings back?
The only thing I can think of, Your Honor, is that he be required to return any items to the victim. Maybe arrange that through law enforcement.
Here's what I'm gonna do is, as a condition of your release, defendant shall be required to return all of the victim's personal belongings, also to cooperate with law enforcement in coordinating a time for the victim to come to the house without the defendant present, with the presence of law enforcement, to obtain her belongings. That way it's not just dependent upon the defendant deciding what her belongings are. All right, thank you, ma'am. You can make arrangements through law enforcement to have that done.
Thank you.
Yeah, the condition is the defendant shall cooperate with that. So you can put defendant shall cooperate with the victim and law enforcement in retrieving her belongings. All right, next case is Medalis Cartagena. All right, Ms. Cartagena is before me on one count of battery, domestic violence, appoint the public defender. I believe she qualifies for PTR.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the defendant will be released on PTR, no hostile contact with the victim. Our next case is Tangela Crawford. Ms. Crawford is here, one count of battery, domestic violence. I'm going to appoint the public defender. She qualifies for PTR. Would you like to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor. I just asked for no hostile contact, as they do have a child in common.
State?
Since the victim's not here, the state would be requesting no contact. They are no longer in a relationship, and if arrangements need to be made regarding the child, we would ask that that be done through the trial judge.
All right, the defendant's released on pretrial release. Defendant shall have no hostile contact with the victim. All right, next case is LaShante Graham. All right, it's before us on one count of assault, domestic violence. Going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor. I just asked for a reasonable bond to be set and no hostile contact.
Bond will be set at $500. The defendant shall have no contact with the victim. He shall maintain separate residences. The defendant is allowed a one-time return to the residence to obtain his belongings in the presence of law enforcement. Next case is Tori Nash. All right, defendants before me on one count of battery, domestic violence. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor, I just ask that a reasonable bond be set and no hostile contact.
All right, and is it Mr. Griggs?
Yes.
All right, and you can go ahead and take the mask off while you're in there. Is there anything that you want the court to know in terms of me setting conditions for the defendant's release?
No alcohol, Your Honor,
Okay. Now, do you feel safe with him coming home?
as long as he's not drinking alcohol.
All right, and well, I mean, that's a
Yes,
big provision because,
okay,
you know, if the question is, I mean, I can have that as a condition. So do you feel safe for him coming home if I say he's not to drink or consume any alcohol, not to have any alcohol in the home?
yes,
All right, the defendant will be released on $500 bond. Shall refrain from the use of alcohol and shall not have any alcohol in the home. And no hostile contact with the victim.
That's it?
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. All right, next case is this Fresnel Renee?
Yes, sir.
All right, this is one count of battery, domestic violence. And appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor, but he does qualify for PTR.
All right, the defendant will be released on PTR, no contact with the victim.
Can we also get a no return to the scene? It's her place of work.
No return to the scene as well. Yes. All right, next case is Skender Alexis. One count of robbery, one count of sexual, cyber harassment, possession of cocaine, and battery. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Can I have a second, Your Honor?
You may.
No comments, Your Honor, just that a reasonable bond be set.
State?
Yes, Your Honor, bonds have already been set. He is entitled to bonds. We would just ask that he have no contact with the victim, and no return to the scene of the robbery.
All right, the court will stay the bonds as already set. In the arrest affidavit, the defendant will have no contact with the victim, shall not return to the victim's home. The defendant shall also not have any contact with the victim through social media or any other similar application, and the defendant shall not have any, well, contact includes the mentioning or tagging or referencing of the victim in social media posts. So including through social media posts and including through social media posts. All right, next case is Malcolm Cooper. All right, one count of robbery, and there's also a previous case, 2023 CF 3257. I'll appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
As to the robbery, I must stay the bond at $5,000. No contact with the victim. No return to the scene of the alleged offense. As to 2023 CF 3257, bond is revoked, and the defendant will be held without bond pending further proceedings before the presiding judge. Next case is Jaquez Cummings. All right, Charles Ellis. Counsel, what would you like to do?
We can waive his appearance.
Okay. All right, he's before us on possession of firearm, resisting officer without violence, possession of cannabis, possession of concealed weapon. Would you like to be heard?
Just that a reasonable bond be set.
Excuse me. All right, I'm gonna set bond at $4,000 for the possession of a firearm. I'm gonna set bond at $500 as to count 2, $2,500 as to count 3, and $5,000 as to count 4. Defendant shall not possess any weapons. Next case is Jackson Janelle. One count of grand theft, one count of resisting an officer without violence. I'll appoint the public defender. Would you like to be heard?
This client qualifies for pretrial release.
All right, defendant will be released on pretrial release. No return to the scene of the alleged offense. Teron Henry. I'm sorry? Henry.
You have a jail number, inmate number, because he's not on our docket. 2301-0966.
Bonded.
All right, Jordan Hinkle. All right, he's before us on one count of trespass on designated construction site, loitering or prowling, possession of methamphetamine, possession of drug paraphernalia. I'll appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
All right, bonds will be stayed at $1,000 to count 1, $250 count 2, $1,000 as to count 3, $500 as to count 4. Defendant shall not return to the scene of the alleged offense. Next case is Jessup Holdman. One count of grand theft of a motor vehicle. I'll appoint the public defender's office. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor, just that a reasonable bond is set.
Set bond at $1,000. Set bond at $1,000.
Good to go.
All right, Michael Holly. Mensley Jean.
Yes, sir.
There's one count of grand theft of a motor vehicle. I'm going to appoint the public defender.
Your Honor, he doesn't
Counsel,
have,
would you like to be heard?
he's bond pending, Your Honor.
I'm sorry?
He's bond pending, so we don't have to see him.
Okay. Thank you. Emmanuel Marcano. All right, one count of no valid driver's license, attaching tag or license to an unassigned vehicle, no vehicle registration, one count of possession of controlled substance and possession of drug paraphernalia. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Two different.
No, Your Honor.
All bonds are stayed. As set, defendant shall not possess any controlled substances. Yes. All right, next case is Brandon Mateo Aviles.
Bond is the same. Your Honor, I wanted to represent myself, sir. I wanted to just point out that about the facts was that, like you said, you're just gonna get the thing. They got me 2 charges for one thing. They cannot charge me twice for one item. They charged me twice. They charged me possession of paraphernalia and they charged me with possession of drugs for one item.
Okay.
You know, that you can't find
You have any
probable
case
cause in
law
that.
for me?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. We're adjourned.
Well,
You can talk to your attorney.
I am the attorney. I'm trying to talk to Your Honor. I'm trying
Well,
to,
and I'm asking you, you have any case law for me?
case law, sir. Oh, okay. Yes, you're right. I don't, sir. I don't have no case law. No, not off the top of my head, no, Your Honor.
All right.
But it is.
Thank you.
Also, they did charge me twice for one thing. I can't afford the bond. That's the reason I can't. That's the only reason I'm saying this, because I cannot afford the bond, sir. I got my son. He's in elementary. I've been taking him to school. I've been out of trouble, Your Honor. This ain't even my car. I was just trying to help somebody move down the street, and I happen to be driving. I don't even know what the car. I don't even know the person who owned the car or nothing, Your Honor. I'm just trying to get home. I can't afford the bond. And I got my son, I got my 16-year-old and my 10-year-old. I'm just trying to ask you, Your Honor, please find some type of sympathy in your heart, sir, so I can try to get out of jail and go back to living. I show up to all my court cases, Your Honor. I'm just begging the court, could you please go a little bit lower on the bond, Your Honor, please.
I've considered your arguments. The bonds will remain as set. All right, we're adjourned. Next case is Brandon Mateo Aviles. This is one count of fleeing and eluding and a previous case, 2023 CF 879A, where he was out on a recognizance bond. Appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor, just that a reasonable bond be set.
Set, as to the new case, I'm setting bond at $8,000. As to the previous case, I'm going to revoke the recognizance bond, and he'll be held without bond for further proceedings before the presiding judge.
Don't do this to me.
All right, next case is DeWarren.
Talk to your attorney, Bill.
So when do I go to court again?
You'll have to talk to your lawyer and address that with the other
Can't
judge.
talk through the jail.
Yeah, you can. Your attorney will talk to you.
Next case is DeWarren Oliver. All right, this is one count of possession of MDMA, one count of possession of drug paraphernalia. Appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor. We would ask that this client be out on ROR. He has been in Orlando for the past few months. He does have family here, and he does have a job.
State?
Yes, Your Honor. According to the face sheet, Mr. Oliver is unemployed. The state has concerns about his ties to the community since he's been here for just a few months. And the affidavit is clear. He already has bonds. The state has no objection to a lowering of those bonds, but would object to an ROR.
I just wanted to add, Your Honor, he has said that he lives here his whole life.
All right, the court will reduce the bond as to count one to $500, reduce the bond to count two to $100. No possession of controlled substances.
My apologies on that. I misheard her.
All right, next is Moise Parfait. It's one count of burglary. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Just a moment, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor, we would ask for a bond reduction. He has lived in Orlando for over a year. He does have a job, and he's fully employed, or employed for full time.
Counsel for the state?
Based off his criminal history, the state would object to an ROR.
Well, I don't think ROR is on the table. They're just asking for a lower bond.
Oh, sorry, I'm got a lot going on. State has no objection to lowering the bond amount. We would just ask that he not return to the scene.
All right, the court will lower the bond to $2,500. The defendant shall have no contact with the victim, shall not return to the scene of the alleged offense. Next case is Henry Robinson.
Sorry, Your Honor. We also would ask for a one-time return to retrieve his personal items.
Do that real quick. Request is denied. Next case is Henry Robinson. All right, before me on one count of possession of cocaine with intent to sell, deliver, possession of cocaine, destruction of evidence, possession of drug paraphernalia, resisting an officer without violence. And there's something else, it's listed as conditional release, but I don't really know what that is. All right, I'll appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor, just that a reasonable bond be set.
Can anybody shed any light as to what this conditional release,
Yes, he's on conditional release supervision.
what is that?
Kind of like parole, in a sense. Well, he's supervised, so he'll be notified if you find probable cause for this. We'll notify and find out what outcomes that actions want to be taken with DOC.
All right, the bond will be stayed at $15,000 as to count one, 1,000 as to count two, 1,000 as to count three, and 500 each as to counts 4 and 5. Defendant shall not possess any controlled substances. Next case is Frank Satsa. I'm sorry? All right, counsel, what would you like to do?
We can waive his appearance.
All right. One count of possession of MDMA and one count of possession of drug paraphernalia. I'll appoint the public defender. Would you like to be heard?
Just at a reasonable bond be set.
All right, bond is stated 1,000 for count one, 500 as to count two. No possession of controlled substances. Next case is Joshua Walker. All right, this is one count of burglary of a dwelling with assault or battery and obstructing justice, tampering with a witness. Appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Just at a reasonable bond be set.
State?
Yes, Your Honor. I believe burglary with assault, it might be a PBL, so state would ask that he be held at no bond on that.
All right, defendant will be held without bond as to count one. I'll set bond at $1,000 as to count two. Defendant shall have no contact with the victim. All right, next case is Nicholas Wright.
He bonded.
Next case, Rocco Zagra.
You have your number, because he's not on my docket. It's 23010975.
Bonded.
All right. What is this? All right, I think these are the ones where I haven't. Yeah, let me grab those. I did that one. Did that one, I think. These are all the These were the Spanish ones. All right, Shaheem Charles. All right, we've got one count of motor vehicle racing. Appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Just a moment, Your Honor. Just at a reasonable bond be set.
All right, and it qualifies for PTR.
Yes, Your Honor. He would like a bond to be set. He is fully employed.
I'm sorry?
He is employed full-time, so he would just like a bond to be set.
All right, the court will set bond at $500. The defendant shall not drive other than for coming and going to his employment or schooling.
If you have a question about it, I'll see your attorney.
All right, James Mitchell.
Yes, sir.
All right, one count of motor vehicle racing. Counsel can have, counsel will appoint the public defender. Would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the defendant will be released on $500 bond. No operating a motor, no driving other than for work or for school. This is from that same one, Mitchell. Which one?
Who is that?
No, this must have gotten. All right, Josiane Germain.
Have that. You have a booking number?
I'm sorry?
Did that one?
I think this maybe, I think that one may be bonded out.
Mr. Jermaine Bond.
Did Jermaine bond out? 23010964.
Bonded.
Yeah, we're at Carlos Santiago. I'm sorry? I said a $500 bond. No driving except work or school. All right, we got one count of DUI. Counsel, we're gonna appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
He qualifies for PTR.
All right, defendant will be released on PTR.
Do you have any conditions for him, Your Honor?
No conditions. All right, Travis Allen. Before us on one count, resisting an officer without violence. Appoint the public defender. Would you like to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor, we would just ask for a bond reduction. He does have 5 kids, and he's currently unemployed.
State?
His last conviction was for resisting back in 2011. It's likely that he is going to be eligible for our pretrial relief, our pretrial diversion program. State would have no objection to a lowering of the bond.
All right, the defendant's bond will be set at $250. Next case is Dondre Bird. All right, he's got one, he's here on a petty theft. I'll appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
All right, defendant will be released on PTR. He's not to return to the scene of the alleged offense. Well, he's not to return to 5265 International Drive. All right, next case is Gregory Lewis. It's for us on one count of resisting an officer without violence. It's also a fugitive warrant, I believe. Appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Just had a reasonable bond be set.
Counsel for the state, where is Lowndes County? Is that in Florida?
How's it spelled? I don't have, what's the spelling for that?
Lownddes.
I believe that's Georgia.
All right.
And it is near Valdosta, so that's like South Georgia.
Right. The The bond will be set at $500 for the resisting without violence. The defendant will be held without bond for on the pending further proceedings for transfer to Lowndes County, Georgia.
Your Honor, can you just advise the defendant of the charges that he has for the fugitive from justice?
On the fugitive charges, it's fleeing and attempting to elude a police officer, possession of marijuana, tampering with evidence, window tint violation, speeding, and reckless driving, and obstruction of a law enforcement officer. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to state, I mean, I'm not going to hold him indefinitely if Lowndes County's not going to get him. So, you know, what my intent is to have a set amount of time. Is there a recommendation on how you want that to happen?
PTR, has Georgia been notified that he's been picked up?
They'll be notified after he solved his Orange County charges.
Okay,
So you don't have to address the bond as of yet, because Orange
So I don't
County
even have to
cases-
deal with it
no,
yet.
just telling him what he's charged with and
All right.
what county or what state.
Okay, so that Georgia issue will become an issue when that warrant hits. So he's not, I'm not entering any orders in terms of his detention as to that at this point.
Yeah, because if he has an attorney, they can request a private bond hearing.
and typically Georgia's very quick with saying whether or not they're gonna come.
That's on them. So the only thing you have, sir, is the bond on the new offense right now. All right, next case is Dominique McNutt. There's one count of trespass on property after warning. Appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Your Honor, the state has an offer for an adjudication and credit time served for Ms. McNutt
I would like to take it, sir.
and a no return to that 7-Eleven.
Counsel?
Yes, we'll do a plea form. Adjudication.
All right, while we're doing that, ma'am, if you would just raise your right hand to be sworn, please. Yes.
Do you swear or affirm that testimony about to give should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, ma'am. Put my hand down.
You can put your hand down. Yes, thank you. And ma'am, do you read or write the English language?
Ma'am. Yes, sir. Yeah.
All right, and it's, my understanding is that it's your intention to plead no contest to the charge of trespass, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and have you had enough time to talk with your lawyer about the trial rights you have and the trial rights that you'd be given up by entering a plea?
Yes, sir, I have.
Okay. All right, I'll accept the plea of no contest, adjudicate the defendant guilty of trespass, sentence the defendant to time served, and the defendant will have 1 year to pay the court costs.
When I get time, like, can I go work out my court, like,
Hey.
They'll give you a year pay.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. We're adjourned and you're excused. All right, next case is Tiffany Norton. Did I accidentally hand you the Tiffany Norton affidavit? No? All right, here on one count of assault on a law enforcement officer, one count of disorderly intoxication. Gonna appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
I was wondering if the state had a plea for this client.
No,
He does live in a different state.
because it's an assault, there's no offer.
What's that? Yeah, well, the last case that they bonded, where they bonded out. On the last plea. I don't think I can add a no return on it.
We asked for an ROR in that she keep in contact with her attorney. She does live in a different state, and she is trying to get home as quickly as possible. And she is employed full-time.
All right, I'll reduce the bond to $500. That's to count one. Stay the bond at $200 as to count two. The defendant can return to her residence out of state. Yeah, I have a Carlos Mojica here, but
Can you let me know what happened to Carlos Mojica? The inmate number is 23010969.
Carlos bonded.
who do you have next?
Alexander, last name is
Okay. He's mental health?
Yes, sir.
All right, counsel?
I would waive and ask for a reasonable bond to be set.
All right, this is already, a bond is already set on an Alva County warrant at $7,500, so I will stay that.
What was the reason? I'm sorry, medical?
Wait, who is,
It's not out of,
who is this?
Marco, I'm sorry, no, Alexander. Marco Alexander Runberg?
No, I have, next on my list is Mr. Antonio Alexander.
Oh, okay, hold on, that's a different person.
Let's just go on order.
Well, this is the order. So, all right, what about Brady DeStasio? We already had her. Oh, I see, Mr. Antonio Alexander. All right, and that was a reset from yesterday. And he's, you said he's a medical?
It's mental health.
Mental health. Counsel?
Just that a reasonable bond be set.
I don't have the ones from yesterday.
Your Honor, would you like to review my?
Here it is, here it is. All right, I'll set bond at $500, no contact with the victim. Two on top.
301-0898.
Marco bonded.
301-0960.
Melendez bonded.
All right, and is the order based on the face sheets or the affidavits? Okay. All right, Najwa Love. Okay, counsel, what would you like to do?
We can waive her appearance and just ask that a reasonable bond is set.
All right, bond will be stayed at $500, no contact with the victim. Ashley McCall. Right, counsel?
Waive her appearance.
She qualified for pretrial.
Can we actually reset her for tomorrow?
Let's reset it for tomorrow. All right, Zachariah Smith. Counsel?
We can waive his appearance and ask that a reasonable bond is set.
All right, bond is stayed at 1,000 as to count one, 500 as to count two. All right, Conrad Brown. All right, Mr. Brown's here on driving while license revoked in violation of probation. Point the public defender. Would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the bond will be stayed on the driving with license revoked. The no bond status will remain in place as to the violation of probation. It'll be held for further proceedings before the presiding judge.
The violation of probation.
All right, Viante Henderson.
Yeah, it's hard to.
All right, he's before us on a violation of probation. Are we also here on the new law violations?
Yes, Your Honor.
And also possession of MDMA, possession of cocaine, and resisting an officer without violence. I'll appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Just that a reasonable bond be set on the new law.
All right, on the new law violations, the bonds will be stayed, 1,000 as to count one, 150 as to count two, 500 as to count three. The no bond status will be kept on the violation of probation. Jariah Jones. All right, this is possession of cannabis, possession of prescription drug without a prescription, a resisting officer, without violence, and violation of probation. I'll appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
Court will stay the bonds as to the new offenses as to counts 1 through 3. And the defendant will be held on the violation of probation.
Just talk to your attorney. We'll let you know.
Next case is Anthony Barrett.
Yes, sir.
for us on one count of disorderly conduct. I'll appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
I'm sorry, what was the last name?
Barrett, Anthony Barrett.
Does the state have an offer?
The state's willing to offer credit time served. It's been actually, no, it would be a week with credit time served. It's been just over 2 weeks since Mr. Barrett's conviction for the same charge. So AG, 7 days OCJ with credit for time served of 2.
One of them got.
He'll be going home today. He served 7 days and they're asking him 7 days. He'll be good. Okay. And we will be entering a plea, Your Honor.
Okay. Madam Clerk, please place the defendant under oath.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that testimony you're about to give should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You can put your hand down. Sir, do you read and write the English language?
Yes, sir.
Have you had enough time to consult with your attorney about your trial rights and the trial rights that you would be given up if you
Yes, sir.
enter a plea in this case?
Yes, sir.
All right, and is it your desire to enter a plea of no contest?
Yes, sir.
All right, based upon the affidavit, I'll go ahead and accept the plea of no contest, enter and adjudicate the defendant guilty of disorderly conduct, sentence the defendant to 7 days jail with credit for time served. The defendant will have a year to pay the court costs. Is there anything I'm neglecting? Okay. All right, thank you very much. We're adjourned on that case. All right, next case is Gabriel Curry. Counsel?
We'll waive and just ask that a reasonable bond be set.
All right, the bond will be stayed at $250. Kerwin Edwards. I'm sorry? Barrett? Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. All right, Ms. Edwards is here on one count of prohibited camping. Appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor, just a reasonable bond be set.
All right, bond will be stayed at $250. Bond will be stayed at $250. We're adjourned on that case. All right, next case is DeAndre Jackson.
Yes, sir.
All right, he's before me on a new law violation, state misdemeanor, resisting without violence, I guess.
Yes, Your Honor, I believe it's charged as a state misdemeanor because the officer didn't want to give him a misdemeanor level, and and just gave him a county ordinance instead. But the state has an offer for credit time served, if Mr. Jackson's willing to take that. And the state has no objection to the court taking no action on the out on bond case, since the allegations in this case are very minor.
Counsel?
Just a moment. Would you like to do that? We're going to give you a credit time served and so you can get out on this one. Okay, so they're going to do no action, but you will still be out on bond.
So I still be out on bond for it? Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, excuse me. I already paid the bond though. So I should have just waited, right?
That's for the other case.
That's something you want to talk to your lawyer about.
Yes, sir. Now I ain't talking about the other. I'm talking about on this case when I had first came here. My mama, she already paid the money, but they told me to wait on the judge because this charge right here might get through out. But I already just paid money.
That's what you want. You're going to want to talk to the lady
Oh,
standing right next to you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
If your mom paid the bond, then the bond you have, if your mom already paid it, then there's no need for you to look at the picture. So she's paying already.
Yeah, she already paid it.
Your Honor, we just asked that a reasonable bond is set if it has not been already.
All right, the bond will be, I mean, I think I'm not gonna
Your
fuss
bond-
with it, because from the sounds of it, it may already be paid, so.
The bond hasn't been paid because he has this detainer for the FAD for his out on bond, so
Let's see.
the,
All right, I'll stay the bond, as set, I believe it's $250, and I'll take no action on the underlying, aggravated battery.
Appreciate it.
All right, Shayna Mack. We're one count of unauthorized presence in an unoccupied or unfinished building. I'll appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Just a reasonable bond be set.
I stated that.
so is it 5 or 250? You're keeping it at 500?
I'll keep it at 5.
Okay.
Yeah, the operable language was stayed.
Okay.
All right, hold on, where was I?
Sharon Mack.
Oh, Sharon Mack, thank you. All right, I'm gonna stay the bond at $250. Defendant shall not return to the scene of the alleged offense, which is 829 West Washington Street.
You do have your probation. Talk to your money is it Sharon Mack? Need the money is Shayna Mack. That's not my name. My name's Shayna Mack. Your Honor, she's stating that her name is Shayna Mack instead of Sharon Mack.
I think that's what I said, but maybe I.
You got me under Sharon.
We have the date of birth, just so I can make sure.
What's your date of
My
birth?
birthday is November the 7th, 1993.
Her AFIS says cleared. She has an alias of Shayna.
Oh, okay. You're good.
Shayna is my real name.
Yeah, they're just, you're
We
good.
have it.
Just secure information.
Yeah, I think the face sheet actually says Shane.
We have it.
All right, Tommy Mills.
Just talk to your.
All right, force on one count of prohibited camping. Counsel, I'll appoint public defender. Would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the bond will be stayed at $250. We're adjourned on that case. And is that everyone?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. All right, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Counsel, can I have your appearances, please?
Tressie Tyner for the state of Florida.
Edward Lopez for the Public Defender's Office.
All right, good morning. Our case, go ahead. Ayala Cintron.
Your Honor, he's one of the individuals that requires a Spanish interpreter. I don't know if you'd like to do them last.
Yeah, let's do that one. Some technical issues. All right, before we get, the other thing is, council, before we get started, what I'm gonna do is, if you'd like to be heard as to probable cause, just pipe up and let me know. And then if you'd like formal of the charges, just let me know.
Defense, can I please ask that you mute the microphone when you're not speaking? That microphone is so good, it picks up your breathing and your anticipation of movement. Thank you.
Will do.
Let's go, let's see, next one is Jamie Delgado.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good morning. Public defender is appointed. Counsel, would you like to be heard as to bond?
Defense would be requesting a reasonable bond at this time, Your Honor.
State?
Yes, Your Honor, he came in at none for a violation of community control, so we would ask that the bond stay at none until he can see the assigned trial judge. Is he entitled?
I have no idea what the underlying, is it a driving with license suspended? Is that the?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, I'm gonna set bond at $500. All right, next case is Jose Lopez Garcia.
Your Honor, he's one of the other individuals that requires a Spanish interpreter.
Okay. Let's go Emmanuel Louis Jacques. All right, I'm going to appoint the public defender. Would you like to be heard as to bond?
Your Honor, defense would be requesting a reasonable bond at this time.
Okay. State?
Yes, Your Honor. He came in for violation of community control on a DUI. State would request he remain, but we'll leave it at the court's discretion.
All right, bond will be set at $500. All right, next case is Joel Mejia. All right, I'll appoint the public defender as to bond.
Your Honor, I do believe Mr. Mejia qualifies for direct PTR at this time.
State?
Your Honor, the state will request pretrial release.
All right, release direct PTR.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next case is Howard Miller. All right, I'm going to appoint the public defender's office as to bond.
Defense would be requesting a reasonable bond at this time, Your Honor.
State?
Yes, Your Honor. He came in on a warrant, and the warrant was set at none. He's also a violent felony offender of special concern. The state would ask that the bond remain at none for his violation on the burglary of an occupied conveyance.
The bond will remain at none. All right, next case, Juan Monta Alegre Sanchez.
Your Honor, he previously bonded out before IAs.
Okay, thank you. Next case is Neftali Ortiz Colon.
He's one of the other individuals that would be needing the services of a Spanish interpreter.
Okay. Errol Taver. All right, I'm going to appoint the public defender's office as to bond.
Your Honor, defense would not be requesting a bond at this time. I have spoke with Mr. Tabor, and there's a resolution as to his cases. We're just awaiting for a next court date.
All right, bond will be stayed. I'm sorry? Yes. All right, Armando Rentas. All right, I'm going to appoint the public defender as to bond.
Defense would be requesting a reasonable bond, Your Honor. I believe this was a failure to appear on a misdemeanor case, I believe.
All right, bond will be stayed at $250. Emmanuel Williams.
Defense would be waiving his appearance at this time, Your Honor.
All right, I'll appoint the public defender's office. Anything you'd like to be heard on, counsel?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
The bond will be stayed. The bond, the amount, and as well as all the conditions be stayed.
Your Honor, he is on probation in Osceola County, case number 22MM2326 for fraudulent use of a credit card. Is it possible we can do an on-view for him?
An on-view revocation.
Violation of probation.
I don't know, never been asked that before. Kate?
Yes, Your Honor. The state would ask that you find a violation of probation based on probable cause for his commit felony battery charge today.
Okay. Defense?
Defense would not be objecting.
All right. The court will so find. All right. Ashley Bobo Melvin. Our court will appoint the public defender. It's an out-of-county warrant. I don't believe I can set bond on this, counsel.
That is correct, Your Honor.
So she'll be held for transfer on the out-of-county warrant.
Thank you.
All right, Moises Martinez. All right, I'll appoint the public defender as to bond.
Defense would be requesting a reasonable bond as to both of his counts, Your Honor.
State?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Martinez has two open failure to appears in two different cases. State would ask that he remain at none and go before the trial judge in those cases.
Okay. Bond will be stayed at none on both cases. All right, Joseph McKenzie. I'm going to appoint the public defender. This is an out-of-county warrant. Anything you want to be heard on?
Excuse me, sir, I did not ask for the.
I have no idea what was just said.
One moment, Your Honor. He would like to address the court, Your Honor.
Sir, I did not request a public defender.
You're gonna have to back up off the mic a little bit because all I'm hearing is. Go ahead.
I did not request a public defender.
Okay, I mean, if you public defender, I'm more than happy to not appoint the public defender.
I do not want one appointed, sir.
Okay, all right, public defender will not be appointed on this case. The defendant will be held for transfer on the out-of-county warrant.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Marquez Davis. All right, the public defender will be appointed. Would you like to be heard as to bond?
Defense would be requesting a reasonable bond at this time, Your Honor. I do believe in the four corners of the affidavit, the alleged injuries are minor at the time, and defense would be requesting a reasonable bond at this time.
State?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Davis is entitled to a bond, so state agrees that a reasonable bond would be appropriate. We would ask for no contact with the victim since the victim's not here to give their position.
All right, defendant will be released on $500 bond and no contact with the victim.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Patricia Rapp. All right, the public defender is appointed. Would you like to be heard as to bond?
Your Honor, she's actually a reset due to her being placed on pretrial release, direct pretrial release for one case, and bond with pretrial release for the other. And when pretrial release went to go do the paperwork for pretrial release, she did not respond to us. Therefore, we reset her to come back today.
All right, thank you. Defense?
Your Honor, defense will be requesting a reasonable bond without pretrial release. I do believe, given Ms. Rapp's personal history, she would prefer to just be able to bond out monetarily without pretrial supervision.
State?
Yes, Your Honor. The state has no objection to bonds without pretrial release. We would just ask that the condition of no controlled substances use or possession be added to her release.
All right, and just so that I understand, I'm setting bond just on the 3 counts, or is there an underlying case that I need to address?
She has 2 cases, Your Honor. She has one of retail theft and resisting obstructing without violence, and the second case is drugs possess controlled substance meth and drugs possess marijuana less than 20 grams and drug paraphernalia possess or use.
And which one was she on pretrial release for?
She was on direct pretrial release. Well, the judge yesterday placed her on direct pretrial release for the retail theft and resisting officer without violence. And for the other case, the judge gave her bond with pretrial release.
All right, the so on the second case, the bond with pretrial release is $1,200, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so is there no bond now on the first case?
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Well, they have on the charging affidavit is the 500 and the 500, but the judge gave her direct pretrial release, so she didn't state the bonds on that.
Right. I'm going to set bond at $250 on the theft case, and 250 as to the retail theft, 100 as to resisting the officer, and I'm going to stay the bonds on the drug case, but without pretrial release.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Let's see. Do we have the? All right. Let's see. How do we do this? Yes. Yes. All right, I'm calling Orange Interpreter, right? Okay. Now, it says that new call will end the current call. Oh, I gotta add. Okay. How do I do that? Add, I see it, okay.
Good morning. This is Dalia Romero, Spanish interpreter on the line. Not sworn in yet, Your Honor.
Good morning. Madam Clerk, please place the interpreter under oath.
Do you swear to translate from English to Spanish, Spanish to English testimonies given?
Yes, I do. Dalia Romero, State Certified Spanish Interpreter for the record.
All right, thank you. Next case is Edgardo Ayala Cintron. All right, the court will appoint the public defender.
Bien, el juez le va a designar el defensor público para que le represente.
It appears the defendant qualifies for direct PTR. Counsel, would you like to be heard as to that?
Aparentemente el señor califica para el programa de servicios con antelación directo.
Defense would be requesting direct PTR at this time.
El abogado de la defensa pide que quede bajo libertad bajo el programa de servicios con antelación.
Defendant will be released on direct PTR.
Bien, el acusado va a quedar bajo libertad bajo este programa.
Next case is Jose Lopez Garcia. All right, court will appoint the public defender.
Bien, el juez le está designando el defensor público para que le represente.
Counsel, would you like to be heard as to bond?
Licenciado, ¿quiere decir algo en cuanto a la fianza?
Defense would be requesting a reasonable bond. That's in this case, Your Honor. It is a misdemeanor, I believe, driving on a suspended license, VOP.
El abogado de la defensa está pidiendo una fianza razonable. Este es un caso de manejar con una licencia suspendida en cumplimiento de libertad vigilada.
State?
State has no objection to that and would ask that Mr. Lopez Garcia be required not to drive while he's out on bond.
El fiscal está de acuerdo con esto, pero está pidiendo que el señor López García se le ordene a no manejar mientras está bajo fianza.
All right, defendant will be released on $250 bond, and he's forbidden from driving while out on bond.
Bien, el acusado va a poder salir con una fianza de $250, pero se le prohíbe manejar mientras está bajo libertad, bajo fianza.
All right, next case is Neftali Ortiz Colon.
President approaching, Your
Neftali
Honor.
Ortiz Colón.
All right, court will appoint the public defender.
Bien, el juez le está designando el defensor público para que le represente.
Okay, we've got two cases. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Tenemos dos casos, algo que el licenciado quiera decir.
Defense would be requesting a reasonable bond as to both cases, Your Honor.
El abogado de la defensa está pidiendo una fianza razonable para estos dos casos.
State?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Ortiz Colon is entitled to bond, no objection there, but he is out on bond for similar charges for possession of controlled substance, possession of drug paraphernalia, as well as concealed carry without a license and resisting. State would ask that that bond either be revoked or new bond is set in that out on bond case.
All right.
Bien, la abogada de la fiscalía está de acuerdo que se le debe dar una fianza, pero él está bajo fianza por otros casos parecidos a esto, a uno de llevar un arma oculta, manejar sin una licencia, resistir sin arresto. Él está bajo libertad vigilada en esos casos.
All right, the bond on the new drug possession charge will be stayed.
La fianza en el nuevo caso de tenencia de drogas se queda igual.
The bond on the underlying offenses will be revoked.
La fianza en los cargos que estaba bajo supervisión, en ese caso queda detenido sin fianza.
Or I guess not underlying offenses, the previous offenses are revoked, and new bond is set at $200 as to count one, the DUI, and $100 as to no valid license.
En el caso de manejar bajo el estado de embriaguez, la fianza es $200. En el otro caso de la licencia, la fianza es de $1,000. En los casos que estaba bajo fianza, se revoca esa fianza y queda detenido sin fianza en esos otros cargos.
Hold on a second.
Un momento.
Yeah, this doesn't square up with what I'm seeing in the reports. Right, this is the new case, isn't it? So there's 2 new cases and 1 older case.
Right.
I see. All right, hold on. So there's 2 new cases and 1 older case. The older case I have not addressed. I see.
Tiene 2 casos recientes y un caso más viejo. El caso anterior aún no he hablado de ese caso. Un momento.
All right, on the DUI and no valid license, the bond is stayed at $500 each.
En el caso de manejar bajo el estado de embriaguez y la licencia, en cada uno de esos casos la fianza es $500.
On the 23 CF 514, bond is revoked and defendant will need to seek bond from the presiding judge.
En el caso 23CF514, en ese caso se les revoca la fianza y el acusado va a tener que ir frente a ese juez para que ese juez le designe una fianza.
All right, I believe that concludes our Osceola docket. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll connect for Orange when you're done.
Okay, thank you, Madam Interpreter.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm gonna pick up with Orange in about 15 minutes. Okay.
Oh, no, we gotta go. We gotta pull.
All right, so our line is down for the other interpreters. So we're gonna try and rig something up here.
Ma'am, can you hear us?
Yes, now I can.
All right, can anybody hear her? Let's try that. Let's try again. Madam Interpreter?
Yes. Hello, everyone.
All right, please, Madam Clerk, please swear the interpreter.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to translate from Creole to English, English to Creole, testimonies given?
Yes, I do.
All right. Next case is Ania Lewis. The public defender is appointed.
Okay, ma'am, the connection is not good.
Can you hear me?
Now I can, but a little while ago I didn't hear.
I'm sorry? All right, I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. Is there a way, are we muted on there, or is there a way to bring up her volume? All right, Madam Interpreter, can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can.
Okay.
And
All right, I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent the defendant.
I'm sorry. Repeat that for me, Your Honor, one more time.
I'm appointing the public defender to represent the defendant.
Ok, m'a pointé sou moun ka pral genyen pou défendre public défendeur. M'a pointé sou li, non, je dois être sou li.
Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor, we would ask for a reasonable bond to be set and a no hostile order because they do share a child in common.
And, sir, can you, do you speak English, sir?
I don't speak too much, but I speak Spanish.
Monsieur parle anglais?
Please parle Creole.
If you could, can you get a little closer to the microphone, please?
Ok.
Tu vas avancer plus dans le microphone là, un micro.
Oui, oui, moi fais ça.
I believe the victim speaks Spanish.
The victim speaks Spanish, okay. All right, and I can't even switch to Spanish, you know, for the record. So, all right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to. Sir, do you speak a little English?
Spanish, mais...
Mais ce papa l'anti anglais, mais du tout.
Bon, attends l'autre petit bail tout petit, mais si je jeune interprète, tu fait bien.
Okay.
That sounded like French.
Yeah, that did. Do you speak Creole, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. Are you able to hear the interpreter?
Yes.
Okay. Can you speak Creole?
Monsieur, qu'attendez interprète là.
Oui.
Do you feel safe with Ms. Lewis coming home?
Moi, ka parler kounya? Hello?
Again?
Ok. Donc, c'est une petite discussion qui te gagne entre moi-même ensemble avec madame moi, qui c'est Ania Louis, cause te gen ti parler, but en puis il te fait une petite réaction quand il te tiré un coup sous moi et puis moi te juste fait suite nécessaire pour nous là bon moi vini pour moi capable de trancher ça et puis c'est tout.
Okay, hold on. Madam Interpreter, were you able to get any of that?
No, very, very poor connection. No, I'm not able to hear anything.
Okay. All right, the defendant will be released on $500 bond as to count one, $100 as to count two. No hostile contact. And defendant shall not have any weapons. Madam Interpreter, were you able to hear that?
Vaguely, I hear the $500 bond, but it's really vaguely for me, up and down.
Okay, $500 bond for count one, $100 for count two. No hostile contact with the victim.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, they'll have to contact who?
No hostile contact.
No contact.
No hostile contact.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I hear the word no contact, but there's something else beside it that I can't make out.
Are you able to speak into the headset? Maybe that might be better.
No hostile contact.
Oh, no hostile contact. Okay, $600 pour charge 1, $100 pour charge numéro 2. Et puis tout, puis gap moun après les moun dans sens hostile, donc ou à brigand.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Merci.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for using our services.
All right, next case is Igor Almeida Morin.
This is Portuguese. Portuguese. Two 220000903. 90. 3-2-3-0-9-0-3. Two, 2-2-2-0-0-0-9-0-3. Just put him to the side. We can do the move ups.
All right, all right, this is Gregory Chapman. I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent him. Counsel, any requests?
Just that a reasonable bond be set.
State?
Yes, Your Honor, the state has no objection to that. He's already has a bond set, so we'll leave it at the court's discretion.
All right, defendant will be, the bond will be stayed at $3,500 as to count one and $100 as to count two. Stay away from the scene of the alleged offense. All right, next case is Amir Garcia. We'll appoint the public defender. All right, counsel for the defendant.
Just that a reasonable bond be set.
State?
Yes, Your Honor, he has bond set from the warrant. We'd ask that those be stayed.
All right, the bond will be stayed as set forth in the warrant.
And then as
Your Honor.
his second case?
Yeah, he has 2 cases.
There's 2 cases? Hold on a second. Let's see. Bond will be, as to the other case, that's the possession of controlled substance, possession of drug paraphernalia. Bond will be stayed as at $2,500 as to count one and $500 as to count two. Charles Efford.
Yes.
I'm going to appoint the public defender's office. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Just that a reasonable bond be set.
State?
Yes, Your Honor, he came in on a no bond through the warrant for failing to appear. We would ask that that be stayed at none.
All right, the bond will be stayed at no bond. You'll need to petition the presiding judge.
Thank you.
Rhonda McCray? Well, hold on. All right, I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent you. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Just that a reasonable bond be set.
Okay, it's one count, right?
Yes.
All right, bond is stayed at $500 on the failure to appear. I'll take no action on the underlying bond on the KPS.
Thank you. And I don't have to pay no bond. Thank you. Thank you.
Next case is Timothy Lafferty. Najwa Love.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Are you going to waive or are we just going to reset that?
Are we waiving or are we resetting?
We can reset him.
We'll reset it for tomorrow. Okay, counsel?
If we can reset for tomorrow, please.
All right, Thayer is next. Joshua Thayer. Okay. All right, I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent you. I'm not quite sure exactly what we've got going on here. We've got 2 ordinance violations. Counsel, would you like to be heard on that?
I did not have this one. I would just ask that a reasonable bond be set.
All right, well, I'm gonna stay the bonds at $250 for the misdemeanors. There is a detainer, though, for an aggravated battery. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. He's out on ROR.
Okay. I'm going to revoke the recognizance bond on the aggravated battery. It'll have to be reset by the presiding judge.
You can talk to your attorney about it. Great.
All right, Denzel. Hold on. Denzel Josephs. We have Rowe. All right, hold on a second.
Jimmy Rowe.
And it's a felony? Yes. He's on a move up or something?
They added him to the move up.
Oh, you just said let us know. Okay.
All right, I'm going to appoint the public defender. This is Jimmy Rowe, here on a failure to appear. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Just have a reasonable bond set.
State?
Yes, Your Honor, he came in at none. We'll leave it at the court's discretion. I see that he's in on petty theft with 2 prior convictions. So we ask that if bond is given, it's at least double what he was, I guess, already out.
Do I need to set bond on the underlying cases as well, or just the failure to appear?
Just the FTA, Your Honor.
All right. All right, I'm gonna set bond at $750. Let's go ahead and take him then.
You gonna do what he wants.
Well, I'll take, is he ready to go? Okay. What's the name?
Luke under misdemeanor. Domestic. Yeah, you're good there.
All right, David Luque. Counsel, can I have your appearance, please?
Jose Rodriguez on behalf of Mr. Luque.
All right, good morning.
Morning, Your Honor, good to see you, or good afternoon by now.
All right, so we've got 2 counts of violation of a domestic injunction, and then I believe we have an underlying battery DV. Counsel, I'll go ahead and hear from you.
Judge, I do need some clarification, because I just met him today, and the deputy clerk, or the clerk there was kind enough to.
Counsel, if you could lean into the mic a little bit.
The clerk was kind enough to give me a case number. I understand that there's 2 new cases, and there's the violation of the injunction. What I need clarification to argue with the court, or to discuss with the court, to argue, is that there is a domestic violence injunction that was issued 2 days ago, I believe the 27th, and he was served yesterday in custody. Is that what the allegations are on the temporary, or is it on the pretrial release conditions for the battery DV case of about a week ago? I have the case number here. That would be 2023 MM 2682, so I'm clear.
It's a no contact order issued from case 2023 MM 2682, serves as the basis.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify. Then we'd be asking for a reasonable bond on both of those. We feel he's entitled to a bond. They're new cases. And I can go through some of those conditions if you like, and I was going over this with the state. There's no condition on the condition. Let me look at the second one, Judge, before I state that. About returning to, because there's 2, there's a no contact order and there's an order of commitment. And on the order of commitment, it's not checked off, do not return to the scene of the offense. But in any event, there's allegations that some of his property was being his own, like personal things, clothes and things like that were being taken. His mother resides there, and his mother was giving him his things. So he was nearby, and she would give him his things. With reference to the weapons, and it states it in the report, the weapons were taken by law enforcement. He could not physically give them the weapons because they were in the marital home. And there's not a marital home with Sasha. She's the ex-wife who lives there. He lives there with his wife, Ava. And those were locked up in a gun case. He had stopped carrying his personal handgun. He has a carrying concealed weapons permit because he works as a substitute teacher on a permanent assignment. So he can't take that gun to school. So he was leaving it locked up. All of his weapons, there are multiple. I can't tell you there are 5 or 10. There were multiple weapons, sir. They were all locked up in the gun case. And one day when the mom goes to the home, because she lives there, law enforcement is there, and they're handing over all the weapons to law enforcement. So that was taken care of. He could not do that unless he set up that appointment where you go with law enforcement to get your things. That would have been the time. That had been done, but he could not comply directly with that condition because they were locked up. He has no other firearms in his possession at this time, nor did he after his arrest. And there's some indirect contact. I believe the text messages are with the sister, the victim's sister. The victim is named Sasha. The sister is named Sam, who reaches out to him to ask, where's my sister? Is she okay? He says, I don't know. Basically, I can't have contact because I've been arrested. And he says, are you sure the kid's okay? And she doesn't know either. And the contact is primarily through this sister the victim's sister asking him, do you know if my sister's okay? And he does respond. He says, I don't know because I've been arrested. I can't have contact with her. So I don't know what's going on. That's my understanding of this. So that's why I'm humbly asking the court to set on the two new cases a bond, and then we can work on the underlying case where there are restrictions, Judge, as well. But I'd like to address those two if we can first.
State?
Yes, Your Honor. We would just ask that the no contact order remain in place. As defense stated, he is entitled to bond, so reasonable bond with the no contact order, and it clarified that he cannot return within 500 feet of the residence.
All right, court will set bond at $750 for each of the injunction or court order violations. I'll take no action on the bond on the underlying case. I'll also adopt all of the additional, or all of the conditions of the bond in the underlying case into the bond in this case. Are there any additional conditions the state would request?
No, Your Honor, just that he would comply with the terms as listed should be sufficient.
Okay, 500 feet means 500 feet. Anything else, counsel?
Yes, for my clarification on the underlying offense, has that bond been revoked or is still?
I'm going to take no action on that bond, so it'll stay in place.
Yes, and just for the court's edification, the state, I reviewed the contact orders with them while we were in the holding cell, asked him, did he understand them? So if the judge doesn't ask, and do you have any clarification, because this is not like, well, I'll go close by and meet somebody. It's no, no is no is no, so that there's no confusion, at least for my part as an attorney instructing him. And we glanced over the injunction. He had an opportunity to read, so he understands that. So he's telling me he's going to be in full compliance, but I wanted the court to know that I took advantage of the opportunity to go through all that with him so that he knows what his obligations are. So we don't need to be back here. We shouldn't be here.
All right, thank you very much, counsel. And, sir, I just want you to be mindful that generally speaking, when presented with this scenario in a one size fits all format, that's going to usually be, a hold at the very least until the presiding judge sees the case. So I think your lawyer has given a fairly compelling explanation of what happened, and because of that, I am going to grant bond. Yes. Yes, all the same conditions. All right, thank you very much.
That'll be all from our part. Good to
Yes.
see you again. It's been a while, Judge. Thank you. All right, is this Mr. Campbell? Yes, Your Honor. Okay. All right, I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Hey, you can talk to your attorney about the facts of the case, okay? You're gonna talk to your attorney about the case, okay? Wait, I'm sorry, we just asked that a reasonable bond be set on the battery count.
All right, state response?
Yes, Your Honor. The state has no objection to a reasonable bond being set. He does have prior arrest history for the same charge. I'm not sure if it's the same victim, but we would ask for a no contact order.
All right, I'll set bond at $250 for count 3, no contact with the victim. The other 2 bonds are stayed, yes. All right, this is Noah De La Tejera.
Yes, sir.
Gonna appoint the public defender. Counsel?
We just asked that a reasonable bond be set.
All right, ma'am, could you tell me your name, please?
Reed.
If you could just lean closer to the mic a little bit.
Brianna Reed.
Okay. All right, and Ms. Reed, is there anything you want the court to know or to do for purposes of today?
I just wanted to be known that
I can't really hear you real well, so.
I just wanted to be known that the situation that happened yesterday, I was in no way in any harm. I feel safe with him in the house. I need him there in the house. I need him there in the house. And I would appreciate it if his come back.
I couldn't hear that last bit.
I would really appreciate it if he's able to come back.
Okay. State?
Yes, Your Honor. Based off the affidavit, the state is requesting at the very least no hostile contact. He is out on bond for damage of property, criminal mischief. There are similar allegations in this affidavit. We'd ask that he be revoked on that and go before the trial judge. And again, I understand that the victim's asking for contact, but I'm not sure that I feel safe with her and the child having contact with him at this time, but we'll leave it at the court's discretion.
All right, the court will set bond at $1,000 for count one, $100 as to count two. I am going to revoke the bond on the underlying case, and I will set a new bond of $500 on the 2023 MM 362, no hostile contact with the victim. Is this Destiny Evans? I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
I'm just that a reasonable bond be set.
State?
Yes, Your Honor, she's entitled to a bond, so state has no objection to a bond. Since the victim's not here, we would ask for.
Well, the victim, I believe, is coming up in about two folks. No, that's fine. I mean, can we have them here at the same time? I mean, I believe she's entitled, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and bring her in, because she needs to be here for hers, and this defendant needs to be here for her appearance.
Before we bring the other individual in, can we just ask if she would like contact with, since
Yes,
charged
I
individual?
Okay. All right. Good morning, ma'am. Can you tell me your name, please? Can you tell me your last name, too? Okay. All right. We're here on Ms. Evans' case, and I'm not going to ask you any questions about the facts since the cases interlock somewhat. What I want to know is, do you have any conditions that you would request in terms of Ms. Evans' case, in terms of stay away order or anything like that? All right. Yeah, I need you to say it verbally. Okay. And so you feel safe around the defendant? Okay. All right. Thank you. Court will set bond at $300, no hostile contact with the victim. Well, technically, I'm only here on Ms. Evans. I'm going to go ahead and take this other case out of order. Ma'am, can you give me your last name again? All right, I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent Ms. Flanagan. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Just a reasonable bond to be set.
All right, and Ms., I've already forgotten the,
State would request it be the same $300 with no hostile contact.
and Ms. Evans, would you like to be heard as to any concerns? All right, the bond will be set at $300, no hostile contact with the victim. All right, is this Eliza Goodman? All right, I'm going to appoint the public defender. Would you like to be heard, counsel?
Just a reasonable bond to be set if there is no bond.
State?
They would just request no contact with the victim. He is entitled to a bond.
All right, bond will be set at $500, no contact with the victim.
Your Honor, can we do a no hostile contact? They do have children.
She's pregnant.
Or she's pregnant.
Well, we have two and she's pregnant.
They have two and she's pregnant as well.
I'm going to go no contact. If, that needs to be modified, that can be done in front of the presiding judge. Joseph Reyes Maldonado, I believe it is. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Looks like the defendant qualifies for PTR. Would you like to be heard as to anything additional?
No, Your Honor.
State?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I missed that.
Defendant qualifies for PTR.
Oh, yes, state would have objection to PTR.
Defendant will be released on PTR, no contact with the victim.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Is there a way for us to set a reasonable bond for this case?
Didn't I have, is it PTR with bond?
No, Your Honor, you can do straight PTR.
Yeah, he's released to direct PTR, straight PTR.
But he just wants to do just the bond, if it's possible.
I see. Can you tell me why?
I think I'm gonna need to go out of state to Georgia to work. I'm an electrician.
All right, I'll go ahead and set bond at, I'm gonna go ahead and set bond at $750. Well, I'm gonna do 500 as to count one, 250 as to count two. No contact with the victim.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank
Do we not have Antonio Alexander? I'm sorry? Okay, counsel, what would you like to do there?
If we can just reset it.
All right, Melissa Bayshore? All right, I'm going to appoint the Public Defender's Office. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Just that a reasonable bond be set.
State?
Yes, Your Honor, we would be asking for the conditions of no contact with the victim and no alcohol.
I'm going to set bond at $500, no contact with the victim. I'm I'm always a little loath as to the no alcohol order because I feel like that's an invitation for, you know, a revocation. So I'm going to decline to include that condition. I certainly will include it as a recommendation, though.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Robert Burns. All right, I'm going to appoint the public defender. Would you like to be heard,
He does qualify for pretrial release.
counsel? For the state?
Yes, Your Honor, the state would be requesting pretrial release.
All right, I'm going to, I'll go ahead and release the defendant on pretrial release. I'm going to say no hostile contact. I mean, it appears to be a father-son relationship. So I'm going to say no hostile contact. Nico Herbert.
Morning, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to appoint the public defender.
Have any kids?
Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Your Honor, we just asked that a reasonable bond be set and no hostile contact because they do share kids.
State?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Herbert has several out on bond cases. One for, it looks like aggravated assault, as well as possession of firearm and carjacking. We would ask that bond be set, no contact with the victim be ordered, and that he be revoked on his out on bond cases.
All right, the bond on this case will be set at $750. No contact with the victim, but I am going to revoke the bond on 2022 CF 11082 and 2022 CF 14691, and we'll set that as a no bond until to be reset by the presiding judge. Okay, James Irwin. All right, I'm going to appoint the public defender. Looks like Mr. Irwin qualifies for PTR. Anything to add to that? Anything from the state?
State has no objection to PTR. We just ask for the victim's statement.
Sure. All right, ma'am, are you Ms. Irwin?
Yes.
World Irwin?
Yes.
Anything you would like the court to consider or know as I make the decision today is just what to do, you know, pending further proceedings in this case?
We're married, we live together, we have a schedule set between us, the kids. We have arrangement sets with the household and the bills. I don't think that he should remain in here.
Okay, you feel safe with him coming home?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, defendant will be released on PTR, no hostile contact with the victim. All right, next case is Ismail Miranda.
No hostile contact.
I'm going to appoint the public defender. Again, Mr. Miranda also qualifies for PTR. Anything to add, counsel?
You want to do PTR or bond? Just for a reasonable bond to be set.
All right, ma'am, are you Rosanna Cordero? Okay. And you only speak Spanish, right? Okay. Do you speak any English? Poquito? No.
I can ask her what her name is.
Well, I got the name, yeah. I mean, here's the thing, I can muddle my way through a conversation, but it's not gonna work for purposes of the record,
No, I understand.
so.
It's just, there is a victim and a witness listed, so.
Okay. I'm really, what I'm concerned about is just, you know, whether there can be contact or not. State, anything to add on that?
No, that would be the state's concern as well. There's no objection to PTR. I believe he qualifies.
Counsel, anything to add as to?
No, just that a reasonable bond be set.
All right, well, I'm gonna release the defendant on PTR. I'm gonna have to say no contact for right now, and that's something that can get cleaned up later on, but without her being able to speak to me, I just, you know,
Just talk to your attorney and they'll figure it out for you, okay?
All right, next case is Amber Peacock. All right, I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, anything to add? It looks like Ms. Peacock also qualifies for PTR.
Just 1 second, Your Honor. Would you like a bond where you pay to get out, or would you like a place where you have to follow a certain, you'll be released today? I'd like to be released today. Pretrial release or bond? Whatever gets me out today. Can you afford a bond? Yes, I can bond. Okay, let's ask. Your Honor, we asked that a reasonable bond be set.
State, anything to add?
No objection to bond being set. We would just ask for no contact with the victim.
Defendant will be released on direct PTR and no contact with the victim. Marco Runberg.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'll appoint the public defender. There appears to be a hold, an out-of-county hold. Anything as to bond in this case, though?
Just a go ahead. Reasonable bond.
State?
Yes, Your Honor, he's entitled to bond. We would ask for a reasonable bond and no contact with the victim.
All right, court will set bond at $500, no hostile contact with the victim. I believe he does have there is an out-of-county detainer, though, so to the extent that's in place, he'll be held for that.
Your Honor, did you say no contact or no hostile?
No contact.
No, thank you.
Oh, I said no hostile? I'm sorry, no contact.
Okay. No contact. Yes, but you have something out of county, so. You're able to bond out on this one.
All right, Shanavia Scott. All right, I want to appoint the public defender. Ms. Scott qualifies for PTR. Anything to add?
That a reasonable bond be set.
State has no objection to PTR, and we would ask for no contact with the victim.
All right, I'm going to release the defendant on PTR and no contact with the victim.
Will be released today.
Is this Mr. Anderson? Okay. Edward Anderson. I'm going to go ahead and appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, I'm going to state, the bond will be stayed at $1,000 where it's already set. No possession of controlled substances. All right, next case is Ilene Baez. No?
The inmate number is 23010904.
She bonded. Welcome.
All right, I've got Willie Blunt.
I don't have the defendant either, Your Honor.
3010872.
They bonded.
All right, Roy Brown.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
We just asked that a reasonable bond be set.
State?
State would agree.
Looks like the victim is a stepdaughter, I guess.
I have this as a civil contempt of court.
That's what it says on my sheet too, but I think that's, I don't know where that's coming from.
Yeah, he bonded out already on his child abuse charge, so I don't know why he's.
So in that event, it's a contempt of court and a DR case, which tells me it's a child support issue.
Yeah, we don't see that here in Iowa.
Yeah, that's not something, okay, so he's technically already bonded out.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
See?
All right, Tyrone Burton Holmes. Himes, I should say.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'll appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard on anything?
Just that a reasonable bond be set.
State?
Yes, Your Honor. Bonds are set. We'd just be asking that, well, the assault was on a law, yeah, so.
It was on an officer.
No conditions from the state, just.
I'm gonna stay the bonds as already set. All right, next case is Ashley Coffey. All right, I'm gonna appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard as to any issues?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the bonds will be stayed on that case. All right, Tanara Enslow. I'm going to appoint the public defender. This is one count of first-degree murder. There's always been a previous finding of probable cause. Anything? Anything else you'd like to be heard on, counsel?
Just that a reasonable bond be set.
Okay, bond will be set at no bond. All right, next case is Daniel Harp. All right.
Yes, sir.
Court will appoint the public defender. I think we have, if I recall, if I am reading this right, there's bond already set as to counts, the possession of cocaine, the battery, domestic violence, and battery domestic violence.
Huh?
No, I'm sorry, Your Honor. He's only here on the possession of meth and possession of cocaine charges.
Okay,
The battery charges were an add-on warrant that he'll be seen on tomorrow.
okay. So I think their bond has already been set on the possession of a cocaine. I think it's and it has not been set as to the methamphetamine. Is that my understanding?
Domestic violence.
The possession of meth charge is 1,000 as well, Your Honor.
Oh, it's also 1,000, okay. All right. Counsel, anything you want to be heard on?
Just that a bond be set for the one that does not, that does not have a bond.
Okay, I believe the bond is set. I think there's sort of a mixed indication there, but I'll go ahead and set it. I'll stay the bonds at $1,000 for the possession of methamphetamine and $1,000 for the possession of cocaine.
I never had cocaine, shorty.
Talk about your case.
Tripping.
All right, next case is Tarek Harris. This is, I'll go ahead and appoint the public defender. It's one count burglary of an unoccupied dwelling. Bonds been previously set at $5,000. Counsel, is there anything else you want?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the court will stay the bond at $5,000. No return to the scene of the alleged offense. All right, next case is Stacy Hightower. Okay. Next case is Edison Hockaday.
Sir?
It's one count of robbery, count of petty theft. And then there is a previously set ROR case in 2023 CF 3629. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
What? You have for your other case? So what are you asking? We would ask for an ROR on this case as well.
The bond will be stayed at $1,000 as to count one, and $500 as to count two. And I am going to revoke the ROR on the 2023 case and set bond at $1,000.
There's 3 charges, Your Honor.
I'm sorry?
Out on bond, there's 3 charges?
Oh, there's 3 charges?
Yes.
I don't have the,
It's introduction of contraband, possession of cocaine, and tampering with evidence.
all right, I'm gonna set it at $1,000 for the introduction of contraband. I assume that's count
I
one.
believe, yes.
$500 for the cocaine and $100 for the, for count 3.
Return your call if you cannot afford it.
D'Angelo Johnson. Okay, this is one count of grand theft, 3rd degree. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard as to anything?
No, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to stay the bond at $3,500. Next case is Lorenzo Joran.
He bonded.
Andy Lang. Looks like 3 different cases.
Your Honor, he's only here on the 23 CF 5495 case.
Okay. All right, so that's grand theft, 3rd degree. I'll appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard as to anything?
Just that a reasonable bond be set.
Okay, court will stay the bond at $5,000. And also will stay the conditions of the bond as well, will remain in place.
Your Honor, McCall Ashley is mental health.
Counsel, what would you like to do as to?
We can reset it for tomorrow.
Okay. Next one I have is Brandon Lopez.
He bonded.
Okay, that's mental health. I've got Rolanda McWhort. Okay, 1 count of burglary of a dwelling and possession of a controlled substance. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Anything you want to be heard on, counsel?
No, Your Honor.
Bonds will be stayed as already put it, 5,000 as to 1, 1,000 as to count 2.
State would request a no return.
And no return to the scene of the alleged offense. All right, Rico Michelle. All right, this is 1 count of carrying concealed firearm, driving with license suspended, and resisting officer without violence. I'll appoint the public defender. Anything you want to be heard on?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the bonds will be stayed as already set. Okay, that'll be it. Alexis Nelson.
Yes.
All right, we got 1 count of resisting an officer without violence and grand theft. There's also an underlying, or there's 2 previous cases, leaving the scene of a crash with property damage and no valid driver's license. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the bonds, I believe bond has been set, and it'll be stayed as set. That's $2,500 on the grand theft. $500 on the resisting. On the underlying offense. Bond is already set on those 2. $1,000 on 2022 CT. $7060 and $100 on 7059. So those will be stayed.
So you're taking no action?
I'm going to take no action on those. No contact with the owner of the vehicle.
No contact.
All right, Bailey Reuter McDonald. All right, it looks like we're here on failure to appear. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Would you like to be heard as to anything?
I just that a reasonable bond be set.
State?
Yes, Your Honor. The failure to appears, they all came in at none. We would ask that they remain at none, and then the resisting, we would just ask that the bond on that be stayed as well.
Okay, the bond will be stayed. As to the resisting, the defendant will be held without bond pending appearance before the presiding judge as to the, on the failure to appear. Chiquita Sanders? All right, looks like driving with license revoked and petty theft. I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent you. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
And I'm not quite sure how, it looks like the defendant was already out on bond, somehow is back in, but I'm not, it's not quite sure exactly how that occurred. So, State, do you have any information for me?
The 22 CT 1961 case is coming back to Leon Mendoza. So I'm not 100% sure what's going on with that. I'm not sure if it's Osceola or what, but
Sorry.
the state would be requesting that she just be given a bond in this case, and then we'll leave it at the court's discretion whether to take any action on the out on bond cases, since I can't find any information.
I guess that's the question is, what is the bond, what is this case?
The third, so the 22 CT is listed as a driving while license revoked. I believe this would be a subsequent
Okay.
driving while license revoked.
So on the 2023 CF 5558, the bond will be stayed at $2,500. I'm going to take no action on the underlying.
Sir.
Your Honor, Smith, Zachariah.
Yep, thank you.
Counsel, what would you like to do there?
We'll reset it for tomorrow.
Okay. All right, Robert Spencer.
Yes, sir. How you doing today, sir?
One count of aggravated battery on a pregnant person. And then there's also a previous case involving domestic violence. I would appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
State?
Yes, Your Honor. The out on bond case is a similar charge. We would ask that he be revoked on that, and a no contact with the victim be ordered.
All right, I'm gonna stay the bond on the aggravated battery. I'm gonna revoke the bond on 23 CF.
Your Honor.
Just 1 second.
I'm sorry, 23 MM 2304. And defendant will need to appear before the presiding judge.
Where you got that?
Yeah, no contact with the victim. Next case is Emily Wiggs. Possession of controlled substance and possession of drug paraphernalia. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Would you like to be heard, counsel?
Just have the bond be reasonable.
State?
Yes, Your Honor. No objection to reasonable bond. We would just ask that the condition of no controlled substances be put in place.
All right, I'm going to reduce the bond on count 1 to $1,000. And I'll reduce the bond on count 2 to $250. Defendant is to not possess any controlled substances. All right, Joshua Wilkerson.
Sir.
All right, we've got a new case, it's trafficking, and then possession and providing false ID. And then there is a previous case, and that's a violation of probation from out of county. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Yes, Your Honor, we did have a probable cause challenge. Yeah, that's right. I just said that.
Go ahead.
Yes, so it looks like there was no probable cause for the cop to approach him, and that the encounter was not consensual.
Well, that's a matter for suppression. So the court finds probable cause. As to bond?
We asked that a reasonable amount, or reasonable bond be set.
All right, the bond will be stayed as to the new case, and the defendant will be held for transfer on the out-of-county probation. All right, Raquel Latang. Okay. That's, you want the ID number? 7275353.
No, the booking number. It should be start with a 2301.
2301-0855.
She's about 2 defendants down, Your Honor.
Oh, okay. We must have gotten out of order. All right, who do we have behind you, counsel?
What happened to Wintle?
Say my name?
What's the booking number?
Joshua Wintle? I'll let you.
2301-0897.
He bonded.
All right, this is Ms. Ybarra.
Yes, sir.
All right, we're here on one count of grand theft, appoint public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
She does qualify for the pretrial release.
She does?
Yes, she does.
All right, and that's with or without bond?
Straight PTR, Your Honor.
All right, defendant will be released on straight PTR.
Any conditions?
No, you're just gonna be released. Serious?
Sing.
Hold on, no return to Universal Studios, Florida. All right, is this Raquel Latang?
Yes,
Yes.
For the 250 bond.
All right, we're here on a failure to appear, and then the underlying offense is possession of controlled substances and a petty theft as well. All right, I'm going to appoint the counsel, appoint public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Your attorney. I'm not sure why it's saying that. I just said a reasonable bond be set.
Oh, it's not a failure to appear. It looks like it's a new petty theft.
Thank you.
All right, the petty theft, the bond will be stayed at $250, and no contact with the victim, and no return to the scene.
Yes, sir.
As to the possession, the bond will be revoked. That's 2022 CF 11676 AO. And I'll set a new bond of $1,000.
Okay, so I have to read.
All right, and who do we have? Is this Mr. Ford?
Kwame Ford,
Kwame Ford?
he bonded.
Okay, do we have Diana Centeno?
Herrera also bonded.
Okay. All right, give me one moment. I got the comm center is blowing up my phone here, so,
Your Honor, may I step out to use the restroom while you do that?
yes.
Thank you.
We'll be in a brief recess.
You said Herrera?
McCray? Oh, was she earlier today? Oh, okay, yeah.
return to Universal Studios. She lives out of state, so can we just put on the record that she could return to Texas?
Okay.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Do you need to write this thing down?
No, I can just, if, yeah, or you need that?
I do, but you can have it.
Oh, okay.
We got another 40. Hey, Evelyn, it's Vince Chu. How are you? Yeah, I just went ahead and signed it. There was two in there, actually. But, I mean, no one said anything to me about the other one, so it's been sitting there for like an hour. So, yeah, all right, thanks. Okay. All right, I'm ready whenever you guys are. All right, before we start, just on the record, as to Amy Ibarra, 2023 CF 5541, as part of her pretrial release, she is allowed to return to her home that's out of state. All right, Manuel Quinones Carmona.
Your Honor.
All right, this is one count, no valid driver's license. And then 2023 CF 25, which is battery, petty theft, and tampering with a witness. I'm going to appoint the public defender.
That's not CO.
Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Yeah, that doesn't matter. No, Your Honor, I'm sorry.
Apologize.
All right, the court will stay the bond at $500. I'm going to revoke the underlying bond and set a new bond at $1,600.
I'm so sorry, Your Honor. He has
3 charges on his out on bond.
On the other out on bond?
On the 23 CF 225.
Okay. Well, it doesn't break it down, so I'll go ahead and break it down. New bond will be set at $700 as to count 1, $700 as to count 2, and $200 as to count 3.
For that one.
Next case is Orbelli Rodriguez Roblero. All right, next case is Onesimo Arriaga.
He's outside medical.
I'm sorry?
Hospital, outside medical.
Okay, counsel?
We can reset it for tomorrow, please.
Nathaniel Elliott. All right, 1 count of petty theft, 1 count providing false ID, possession of drug paraphernalia. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to stay the bonds as already set. And we're adjourned on that case. All right, Jeffrey Fuller. Counsel?
Reset for tomorrow, please.
Nikita Johnson. Okay, there's 1 count of battery. There's also a, she's previously out on bond on a 2022 CF 13262. This is robbery, obstructing justice, tampering with a witness, battery, and criminal mischief. I'll appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to stay the bond as already set on the battery case, no contact with the victim. I'm going to revoke the bond as to 2022 CF 13262 shall be held without bond pending appearance before the presiding judge.
Your Honor, never mind.
Yes?
Never mind, I had Ricardo stapled to Miss Johnson's case.
All right, Ricardo Johnson.
How you doing?
All right, we have 1 count of criminal mischief, 1 count of disorderly conduct, and there is a previous case for trespass on a property. Counsel, I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to stay the bond at $500 as to count 1, $100 as to count 2. There's an ROR as to the underlying case, 2023 MM2224. I'm going to revoke the recognizance bond, and I'm going to set new bond at $250 in that case.
Your Honor, Lafferty Timothy is mental health.
I don't have a. Okay, next person I've got is Corey Meek. Okay. LaQuinda Pope. There's 1 count of trespass on property. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard? Anything you'd like to be heard on, counsel?
Yes, we would like to ask for an ROR.
Can you give me a little more?
She currently cannot afford the, hold on, I'm sorry, 1 second. Currently cannot afford the bond. Do you have kids? 8 kids. And she has 8 kids.
State?
Yes, Your Honor, the state would object to an ROR. This occurred at an apartment building. There was also weapons involved. We'd ask that a low but reasonable bond be set and that she be required not to return to the scene or possess any weapons.
All right, I'll lower the bond to $250. Defendant shall not return to 1101 Lee Road
Can you do,
and shall not possess any weapons.
okay, call your attorney and see what you can do.
All right, next case, Essence Tompkins. Okay. Louis Botorf.
Yes, sir.
All right, we've got, these are two out-of-county warrants. I'll appoint the public defender. The underlying cases are, looks like they're violations of probation on burglary and robbery. Counsel, anything that you need me to address?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Defendant will be held for transfer to Pasco County. Next one's Jenna Haney. All right, let's see, this is out-of-county warrant, out of Lake County. Counsel, I'm gonna appoint the public defender's office. Anything I can, anything that needs to be addressed by this court?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, the defendant will be held on these warrants and transferred to Lake County. Scotty Jones. I'm going to appoint the public defender. This is an out-of-county warrant. Out of Seminole County. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
All right, defendant will be held for transfer to Seminole County. Next case is Santiago Marin. It's an out-of-county warrant from Volusia County. We'll appoint the public defender. Anything the court needs to address today?
No, Your Honor.
All right, defendant will be held for transfer to Volusia County. Next case is Dorian Thompson. This is a fugitive arrest. Looks like off of, I assume like a David hit or something. Off of, and it looks like I'm seeing something about Pennsylvania.
Yes.
I know nothing else other than that.
It's Pennsylvania. It's just a no bond.
Okay.
They'll come pick him up.
All right, counsel, I'll appoint the public defender. Anything I need to address today?
No, Your Honor.
All right, defendant will be held for transfer on that warrant. All right, it's Raymond Frederick. All right, it's a number of counts of violation of probation. And a new grand theft. Appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Just at a reasonable bond be set.
Trying to find, to see if bond has been set on that grand theft. Can't seem to find that. All right, the court will, the defendant will be held without bond on the violations of probation. I'm gonna set bond at $3,000 on the grand theft.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. We're not here on the grand theft.
But we're not,
No,
okay.
we're just here on the BOPs.
All right, then the defendant will be held without bond pending further proceedings before the presiding judge. Tyler Fight.
Sir.
All right, we've got one one count of trespass and a violation of probation. Gonna appoint the public defender. Anything that you would like to be heard on?
Just a reasonable bond, sir, Your Honor.
Court will set bond at $500. Well, I'll stay the bond at $500 on the trespass, no return to the scene of the alleged offense. And I'll stay the no bond as well on the violation of probation for appearance before the presiding judge. LaTroy Jones. All right, this is a violation of probation, as well as possession of cannabis and resisting an officer without violence. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to stay the bond on the new offenses. $1,000 as to count one, $500 as to count two, and I'm gonna stay the bond on the violation of probation at $1,000. Next case is John Roberts. Violation of probation and petty theft. Gonna appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
Are we here on the petty theft?
No, Your Honor, we're just here on the VOPs.
VOP.
All right, the warrant is set at no bond, and it'll be stayed there pending further appearance before the presiding judge. All right, Sinalda Williams. All right, this is violation of probation. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the bond, it's set at no bond. It'll be stayed pending further proceedings before the presiding judge.
But we are here on the criminal mischief.
The criminal mischief, the bond will be stayed at $500 and no return to the scene of the alleged offense. Marion Moore. All right, it looks like it's a violation of city ordinance, and then there is a case where Mr. Moore's out on bond for carrying a concealed weapon and reckless operation or ROWOV. All right, I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Just at a reasonable bond be set.
All right, I'm going to stay the bond on the new charge at $500. I'm going to revoke the bond on the on 2023 MM 282.5, and I'm going to set a new bond of $1,000 for count one and $500 as to count two. Timothy Scott. We have possession and consumption of alcohol in public and violation of state ordinances. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
We just asked that this client be ROR'd.
State?
Yes, Your Honor. If he would like to take it, the state's willing to offer credit time served. Yeah, just credit time served for both charges.
They'll let you out. They basically like the time you serve in here will be. Yes. Was it an adjudication of guilt or?
Yeah, it'd be an adjudication.
Give me 1 second.
All right. Mr. Scott, is it your desire to enter a plea as to this, or a plea of no contest as to both counts?
Answer him.
Sir.
Okay. And do you understand the rights that you have and the rights that you're giving up as reflected on this plea form?
What rights am I giving up?
Well, I mean, the right to a trial, the right to a counsel. I mean, do you want to take a look at this again? Okay.
I gotta really think about that. I really don't want that for my record.
So you don't want to do the plea? Okay. Would you be able to bond out? Sorry, Your Honor. If we can have a reasonable bond set, we are not going to do the plea.
Okay. Court will set bond at, must set bond at $200 as to count one, $100 as to count two. I believe that concludes our docket. All right, Mr. Anderson is here on a state probation violation as well as trespass on property and resisting without violence. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Defense would just be requesting a reasonable bond, Your Honor, given the facts of the underlying.
It'll take 5 minutes in the back up. So 5 minutes in the renewal.
Now, am I here on the probation case or just a probation case or as well as a new law violation? I'm trying to figure that out from this package.
He's here for the new law violation, but he's also on state probation. So it's just notifying you that he's on state probation. It's up to you if you want to do something with that.
All right, I'm going to stay the bonds on the new law violations. I'm going to revoke his bond, or I'm going to hold him on no bond on the probation violation. Case number?
On view violation probation.
I'm sorry?
So you would like to do an on-view violation of probation?
Yes, ma'am. The case number, what's the underlying case number for the probation?
I apologize, I left that out. It is 22 CF 951.
All right, thank you very much. We're adjourned on that case. All right, next case is Gioconda Arborola Perales.
Your Honor, she would be needing the services of a Spanish interpreter. I don't know if you'd like to do her last.
Yeah, I'll hold her to the end.
And we do have two other individuals that would be requiring a Spanish interpreter. I'll inform you when we get to them.
Okay, thank you. Brian Bardales.
Your Honor, defense will be requesting a reset. He's currently at the hospital.
Okay, it'll be reset for tomorrow. All right, next case is Travis Barrington. All right, Mr. Barrington's here on a violation of probation. Counsel, would you like to be, appoint the public defender? Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Defense would just be requesting a reasonable bond. I do believe it was a simple battery, the underline that he was on probation for.
Can you give me any information here?
No, Your Honor, PTR might be able to give more. I just have that he was picked up for warrant and that the underlying was the simple battery.
Anything from PTR?
No, Your Honor, that's all that we have also.
All right, I'm going to set bond at $1,000. All right, next case is Calvin Bryant. All right, Mr. Bryant's before us on a trespass. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Mr. Bryant is eligible for direct PTR. Anybody have any objection to that?
No, Your Honor.
No objection from defense, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Bryant will be released to direct PTR. No return to the location of the alleged offense.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Brianna Collins. All right, Ms. Collins is before me on retail theft, a petty theft, possession of controlled substances, and possession of drug paraphernalia. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Your Honor, I do believe she qualifies for direct PTR as well.
PTR?
Yes, she does qualify for direct pretrial release.
All right, she'll be released on direct PTR. No return to the scene of the alleged offense and no possession of controlled substances. All right, I have a John Doe who has also been identified as Eden Zuriano Trinidad.
Yes, Your Honor. He's one of the other individuals that would be needing a Spanish interpreter.
Okay, I'll come back to that. All right, Christopher Dow.
Your Honor, defense does have a PC argument in this case.
All right, Mr. Dow is before me on aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. I'm going to appoint the public defender and go ahead with your PC argument.
Thank you, Your Honor. In the four corners of the arrest affidavit, defense argues that there's not enough or probable cause as there are conflicting statements. The alleged victim in this case believes that Mr. Dow pulled a firearm on him during a road rage incident. However, Mr. Dow's statements do not indicate any firearm, and actually he just, from the looks of the affidavit, he raised his middle finger at him multiple times. Defense would be arguing that it's not a deadly weapon per Mr. Dow's statements. It was just his middle finger.
All right, court finds probable cause as to bond.
Defense would be requesting requesting a reasonable bond.
All right, bond will be set at $5,000, and no possession of any firearms. So if you have them, you'll need to turn them over into the custody of somebody else. To somebody, he can't have them. I don't know who he can give them to, but he has to not have them in his house.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, next case is Alejandro Hernandez Soriano.
Your Honor, he's the last individual that would be needing the Spanish interpreter.
And you can, on the paperwork. All right, Eric Lund. All right, Mr. Lund, you're before me on 2 counts of domestic battery. I'm going to appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Your Honor, at this time, the defense would argue that there is PC as to the first count of domestic violence battery. Per the second victim's statement, she does not believe that Mr. Lund was attempting to hit her. It was an accidental touching.
State.
He was stated that Eric was pushing and striking Lua in the face, and that she was also struck during the physical altercation. Even if he wasn't attempting to hit Diane, it's the state's position that the intent to hit Lua would transfer to the battery as it relates to Diane.
All right, court finds probable cause as to both. As to bond.
Defense would be requesting a reasonable bond, Your Honor, and a one-time return with law enforcement to retrieve any belongings at the home.
I'm going to set bond at $500 for count 1, $100 as to count 2. Stay away from both victims as well as their residents. I'll allow a one-time return with law enforcement to obtain his possessions. Thank you. Next case is Stephen Shearer. All right, Mr. Shearer is before me on 1 count of battery. I'll appoint the public defender. Would you like to be heard as to bond, or would you like to be heard?
Not at this time, Your Honor. Defense would just be requesting a reasonable bond.
All right, bond will be set at $500. And no hostile contact with the victim. Next case is John Sherwin. This is 1 count of driving with license suspended, multiple violation. I'll appoint the public defender. Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Not at this time, Your Honor. Defense would just be requesting a reasonable bond be set as to both of his cases.
Hold on, there's 2 cases. Oh, I see. He's also before me on 1 count of possession of a controlled substance and possession of drug paraphernalia. Court is going to stay the bonds as already set. And defendant shall not have any controlled substances and shall not drive until his license is restored. I believe we're at our interpreter
group. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
All right, give me one moment.
Good morning, Your Honor. This is Christopher Vanscoy, Spanish interpreter. I have not been sworn in yet today.
All right, good morning. Madam Clerk, please place the interpreter under oath.
Do you swear to translate from English to Spanish, Spanish to English, testimonies given?
Yes, I do.
All right, next case is Gioconda Arborola Perales. All right, let's see, defendants before me on one count of battery and one count of hindering with communication information.
Señora, usted se encuentra ante mí por una acusación de agresión física y por obstrucción a la justicia.
All right, counsel, would you like to be heard? Oh,
Licenciado, que desea proclamar.
And I'm appointing the public defender.
Not at this time, Your Honor. The defense would just be requesting a reasonable bond.
Designar el defensor público. Adelante, licenciado. En este momento no tengo nada que proclamar. Solamente estamos solicitando que se imponga una fianza razonable.
All right, and I have here also somebody in the witness area. Sir, can you state your name, please?
Jairo Rodriguez Rojas.
Okay, you're Jairo Rodriguez?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Rodriguez, do you need an interpreter at all?
No.
Mr.
También
Rodriguez.
tengo ante mí un testigo. Señor, diga su nombre, por favor. Señor Jairo Rodríguez. Señor, ¿acaso necesita un intérprete? No su señoría.
Mr. Rodriguez, is there anything you want to tell the court in terms of what you want me to do today?
Señor Rodríguez, ¿acaso usted le desea decir algo a este tribunal para que yo lo tome en consideración para el día de hoy?
First of all, I just want to let you know that she's a good wife and everything. It's just that when she's drinking, she just does stuff that she shouldn't. But other than that, she's a good wife, and I don't want to put her in all this stuff.
Antes que nada, quiero dejar saber a este tribunal que ella es una esposa excelente. Solamente cuando ella toma, pues hace cosas que no debería estar haciendo. Pero es una muy buena esposa y lamento mucho ponerla en esta posición.
Right. State, would you like to be heard?
Just briefly, Mr. Rodriguez, are you wishing to have your wife return home?
Yes, ma'am.
Solamente, Fiscalía, algo que proclamar. Si seré breve, señor Rodríguez. ¿Desea usted que su esposa regrese al hogar? Sí.
And you're not in fear if she returns to the home?
No.
Okay.
¿Y usted no tiene temor cuando si ella regresa a la casa? No.
No further questions from the state. We would just ask for no hostile contact and no alcohol.
Nada adicional de parte de la Fiscalía, solamente solicitamos que no exista ningún tipo de trato hostil y que se le prohíba las bebidas alcohólicas.
All right, as to count one, I'm going to set bond at $500. As to count two, I'm going to reduce the bond to $250. Defendant will have no hostile contact with the victim. And defendant shall refrain from the use of alcohol.
Con respecto al primer cargo, impondré la fianza monto total de $500. Con respecto al segundo cargo, la voy a reducir a $250. Se le prohíbe a la acusada la hostil con la víctima y también se le prohíbe a la acusada la consumación de bebidas alcohólicas.
Okay. Thank you. We're adjourned.
Gracias, eso es todo.
All right. Next case is Eden Zuriano Trinidad. Yeah, we'll accept the name. All right, this is John Doe, who has been identified as Eden Zuriano Trinidad. All right, Mr. Trinidad is before me on one count of criminal mischief, one count of burglary, and one count of burglary of an unoccupied vehicle. I'm going to appoint the public defender.
El señor Trinidad se encuentra ante mí por una acusación de entrada ilícita con fines delictivos en un vehículo y también por daño a propiedad ajena, por lo tanto voy a designarle un defensor público.
It also appears that that the defendant may have looks like an immigration hold.
Y también aquí aparenta que que el acusado tal vez tenga algún tipo de impedimento migratorio.
Counsel, would you like to be heard?
Licenciado, ¿acaso desea proclamar algo? En este momento no, sus señorías, la defensa solamente solicita que se imponga una fianza en una cifra razonable.
All right, as to count one, I'm going to set bond at $500. Count two, bond will be $6,000. Count three, bond will be $2,000.
Con respecto al primer cargo, impondré fianza en monto total de $500. Con respecto al segundo cargo, una fianza de $6,000. Y con respecto al tercer cargo, una fianza de $2,000.
Defendant shall not return to the scene of the alleged offenses.
Al acusado se le prohíbe regresar al lugar donde supuestamente se llevaron a cabo estos hechos.
And shall not have any contact with the alleged victims.
Y también se le prohíbe el trato con alguna de las presuntas víctimas.
All right, we're adjourned on that case.
Hemos terminado con esta causa.
All right, next case is Alejandro Hernandez Suriano. All right, Mr. Hernandez Suriano is before me on one count of criminal mischief, one count of criminal conspiracy, burglary, obstructing an officer without violence, and burglary of a vehicle.
El señor Hernández Suriano se encuentra ante mí ante una acusación de daño a propiedad ajena, de conspiración, de entrada ilícita con fines delictivos, delictivas con fines delictivos a un vehículo y de agresión hacia un agente de orden público.
I'm going to appoint the public defender.
Le designaré un defensor público.
Would you like to be heard?
¿Desea decir algo, licenciado? En este momento no.
As to count one, court will set bond at $500. As to count two, court will set bond at $6,000. As to count three, court will set bond at $250. And as to count four, court will set bond at $2,000.
Solamente solicitamos que se imponga una fianza razonable. El tribunal impondrá fianza con respecto al primer cargo de $500, con respecto al segundo cargo $6,000, con respecto al tercer cargo $250 y con respecto al cuarto cargo $2,000.
And defendant shall not return to the scene of the alleged offense or have any contact with the alleged victims.
Y también se le prohíbe al acusado regresar al lugar de los hechos y se le prohíbe el trato con cualquiera de las presuntas víctimas.
All right, we're adjourned on that case.
Hemos concluido con esta causa.
All right, and I believe that concludes our osseo